My summer of bliss was a different experience for Jeffrey, who probably felt that he was watching a speeding train pass right by him. I suspected that he saw the Barefoot Contessa as my summer job and thought that when the store closed in September, we'd go back to our old life in Washington and the old roles that went with it. So she obviously hates a husband-wife dynamic. She doesn't want to be responsible for keeping the home when she's working her ass off.
I think it is tricky too for women who love cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I see this a lot. What happens when your passions are domestic? You can love cooking without wanting to be a housewife. But I understand how that might make the boundaries less clear than if you're I'm at work all day.
Totally. She realizes that she needs time to figure out who she wants to be in her life, and she suggests that they separate.
The other problem is that when Jeffrey came on weekends, he was a distraction. I didn't pay enough attention to him. I'm absolutely sure about that. I feel terrible whenever I think about it. I just wanted everyone to leave me alone so I could concentrate at the store. I wanted to spend all my time working, learning, and making the store better.
I'd asked the only man I'd ever loved for a separation, knowing I was taking a terrible risk. She does take a lot of these risks, and she always kind of walks you through them and knows that when you are gambling, everybody leaves something on the table. She's not in this thinking, I'll put all this stuff on the line and then definitely get what I want. She knows that she could lose everything.
Sometime in the middle of the summer, we went for a walk on the beach. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but I found the courage to start the painful conversation. Haltingly, I told him that I needed to be on my own. He said, of course, take the time you need, and he went back.
For the rest of the summer, I focused on the store and catering in the store. Nothing prepared me for the bittersweet reality of Labor Day when everyone goes home and the business closes for the winter. Was I free or completely unmoored? So she finds an apartment in New York City, and then she just rots. There was no reason to get up. I had no purpose. I had no space to cook in the terrible kitchen. She just is in New York alone. She doesn't know anyone. She doesn't have a job because she has that summer store in West Hampton.
She's living off the money she made from the summer, which is enough to live on, but not crazily. So one day, Jeffrey called to check in. What's going on? I went directly from hello to a total meltdown. When I got to the part about not being able to get out of bed, he spoke calmly and reassuringly. Why don't you just take a taxi to Grand Central Station and catch the next train to Washington? I'll pick you up at the other end. I'm going on a 6-week round-the-world trip for the State Department. Your friends are here. Your support system is here. Just stay in our house where you'll be comfortable, and I'll see you when I get back. So they sit down and have a conversation, and he goes, what can I do to change your mind? And she's he didn't understand how bad it was for me, not because I didn't love him, but because I just couldn't live with him in a traditional man and wife relationship. Maybe I should have had more confidence in Jeffrey, but I'd never been through something like this before, so I didn't know it was possible. Let me be clear. Jeffrey hadn't done anything wrong. He was just doing what every man before him had done. But we were living in a new era, and that behavior wasn't okay with me anymore. I had changed. I felt differently about myself. My summer at Barefoot Contessa showed me who I really was. And even though many of my experiences at the store and when I was on my own in New York had been a trial by fire, I came out of the challenging times feeling stronger and more secure. And for the first time, I had a real sense of my identity. I couldn't go back to the way we were when my sense of self was so dependent on being a wife.
The only chance of this working is if you go to a therapist, I told him. I hoped that if he discussed our situation with a professional, he'd see me differently. I realized Jeffrey's willingness to see a therapist was as significant as anything that might happen during their session. He was that determined to convince me he was serious about making our marriage work. If he could change a little and I could change a little, we could meet in the middle and start again.
So he goes on his trip. She takes 6 weeks in DC. They meet up in Palm Springs. Moving forward, we could be equal to take care of each other. It wouldn't happen overnight, but if we worked toward the same goal, we could change things together. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the most wonderful man. I'm falling in love with someone who just happens to be my husband.
And they've been together ever since.